Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this information session on TAP's One Act Play 2022. My name is John Skees, and I am the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but first I've got some housekeeping items to cover with you. First of those, this webinar is being recorded. That recording will be hosted on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz. You can find that recording and recordings of all of our public webinars and training sessions. There you're going to see a playlist that says Webinars and Meetings 2022 to 2023. You're going to receive a link to that later today. It's going to be sent to the email address that you used to register for today's webinar. Second, if you have questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. You see a little drop down that says questions next to it. You can just type them in there and hit send. We're going to try to answer those as we go, but if we don't get to yours right away, don't worry, there's a general Q&A at the end and we'll play catch up. But if we run out of time or if your question is just too specific to answer appropriately in this venue and we don't get to it, please send us an email after the webinar is over, info@taps.biz, or call us at the office and we will get you an answer. Next, we also have a handout for today's webinar. You're going to see a handouts drop down in the GoToWebinar interface. There is one PDF in there that Rhonda's going to talk about in a minute. You can go ahead and download that now or at the end of the webinar. So just wanted to make you aware that that is there. A couple other media-related announcements before we get started to let some more people get on the webinar today. We have a Twitter account for One Act Play. That's at TAPSOAP. If you've got an account related to your program or your school, please give us a follow. Tag us when you're doing rehearsals or anything like that. We always like to hear from our member schools, and we like to retweet and share things, and that's it's just a fun place for us to put stuff. With that, I think we've got enough people joined. So in the office today, I am joined by Brian Bunselmeyer, TAPS Executive Director, Rhonda Smith, TAPS Director of Fine Arts, Robert Huckabee, TAPS Associate Director and Director of Compliance, and Will Dixon from the TAPS office staff is helping us out behind the keyboard. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian to get us started. Brian?
Thank you, John, and good afternoon to everybody. We're excited. We're heading into the 22-23 school year, and one of the first fine art activities will be One Act Play. It's going to be the 10th anniversary of TAPS undertaking One Act Play, and we're so glad to be here and be able to offer that for our member schools. It's a little different than what they do in the UIO. We do ours in the fall to avoid the busy spring for all of us. So we appreciate everybody that's thinking about doing One Act Play, and that's come before and done One Act Play. So we're really excited. This year marks the first full year for Rhonda Smith to be our Director of Fine Arts. Robert's returning as our Director of Compliance. We've also got Kelly Bay here in the office. She can help you with your rank 1 questions and other questions as we go forward. It's going to be a busy year, but we're excited that One Act Play is one of the first events we get to kick things off with. Rhonda, why don't you say a few things about governance and get us on into the program?
Thank you, Brian. Welcome to everyone. We are looking forward to a great year. Looking forward to working with each of you and going through the year. And in the Constitution and the bylaws, I just wanted to point out just a few things. The Fine Arts General Bylaws are found if you go to our website, and I'm going to have Will pop over there real quick. If you go to our website, in the top left-hand corner in the menu, you'll see the word bylaws. He's not going to click on that right now because it is a huge document and it takes a minute to download. But once you get there, if you scroll on down to sections 198 to 202, you can get some general bylaws for the fine arts. But when you want to get to the One Act Play specific sections, those are sections 250 to 255, and you can see each of those sections and what it covers. And most of you may already have your play and everything. However, if you'll go to our next slide in selection and standards, there are some things that you can look at. We do not actually supply you a list of approved plays. You are allowed to go on and use the provider of your choice as long as they are approved by your school and that they also conform to the TAPS standards. Excuse me, and then they must be published and registered and have a copyright and be registered with the Copyright Office. So those are some things that you need to make sure that you have those. And some of the standards we will explain those. Scripts, we allow you to do cuttings and adaptations. But if you'll see that underlined spot, I wanted you to really know that it is your responsibility to follow all license requirements. Whatever the publisher is asking for, you must follow those requirements. Also, you are going to be asked to provide an original published version of that script each competition. At district, your contest manager will let you know how she wants those delivered, and also at state, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. If you have questions about your script and you're not sure, maybe there are some questionable areas, you can contact the office, but you can also submit that script to our office to be read. There is a $50 fee for that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but you can contact the office and we will get that information to you. Brian?
So, Rhonda, a couple of things when we talk about following the publisher's notes, etc. There are times when a publisher or when the playwright will say you cannot change the gender of a character. There will be some times when the playwright or the publisher will say you cannot delete anything. It must be done in its entirety, or it must be done in this order. And then there are others that will say, do whatever you want to do. We're just glad to get it out there. So make sure you read the fine print, because you don't want to get to the late October to your district, or even get between district and state and then realize when we're actually reading your rights that you paid for that you may not have cut the script in the appropriate way. So as those questions come up, we're here to work through it with you. We may not have the answer, but we'll sure delve down that road to get there with you. Robert, talk to us a little bit today. This is Robert Huckabee, our Director of Compliance, about the selections and the standards.
Thank you, Brian. Welcome to everyone. Glad to have you with us today. This is a topic that comes up every year. As Rhonda mentioned earlier, TAPS does not publish a list of approved plays. We leave that to your discretion, but I use the word discretion carefully. If you have questions about the appropriateness of the content or anything regarding your play, please reach out to our office. We'll be glad to review that for you and give you some comments or maybe some adjustments or changes. We have that come up very often in the world of one-act play, and then in the spring when we have our speech competitions as well. Rhonda has highlighted some things there that are important. They're in yellow. Content and theme of plays can vary drastically, but please make sure that you're not doing things just for shock value. We see that often, and that's really sometimes where you run up to or across the line. We have a listing of things here, and I do want to cover this briefly. There, the bottom part in yellow, it says TAPS has determined certain subject matter, themes, content, or portrayal, including but not limited to the following, is not acceptable for TAPS one-act play competitions. We have a listing of things there that would be frequent flyers that we've run across in the past that would be inappropriate for performing a one-act play with the actors and the audience being high school students, and we've listed those: profanity, abortion, adultery, homosexuality, incest, suicide, and teen pregnancy. We know there are a lot of pieces out there that cover these topics, and this is not an exhaustive list. We want to make that point of emphasis here, but this is just an example of some of the things that would not be appropriate. Once again, please reach out, submit your script, submit any portions of that you had questions about, and we'll be glad to help you walk through that. Brian?
So, Robert, you and I have been doing this for a while. You actually served on our executive board prior to joining the TAP staff. So at one point you got to raise your hand and have a vote, and I got to make the presentations. It comes up every year where we have directors and schools ask, well, what if we want to do these? So every year since we've begun one-act play, we make sure that we introduce to the board the opportunity to review this selection and say, what are the TAP standards? And I think I can say with impunity, it has not been reduced since we created it. Would you agree with that statement?
That's true. The board has looked at specific situations. They do that on an annual basis because issues do arise throughout the course of the year. We bring that before the board and ask them, are these standards still what we want to hold to for our organization and our member schools? And that is continually reinforced.
So we realize that it may not be an exhaustive list and that there are things that folks want to do. If you have a question or something that steps into what could perceive as a gray area here, encourage you to reach out. This is definitely one of those areas where you want to reach out and ask permission instead of asking for grace and mercy later, because if you're asking for grace and mercy at the back end, it may not work out right. Robert's other real-life job at one point was being an attorney, so I think this copyright compliance, Robert, talk to us a little bit about the importance of intellectual materials.
So in addition to the actual content of your play, there are certain legal things you need to have in place to be able to perform it, and we have those listed there for you. You will need documentation, as Rhonda mentioned earlier, in several respects. You'll need proof of the copyright registration. You'll need the license to perform the production. You'll need license to allow cuttings or adaptations, if that's allowed, as Brian mentioned earlier. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's your responsibility to make sure all these things happen and to follow up on this. You'll need proof of payment of the royalties. You'll need to provide that for us, a music log, and those things are reviewed and need to be presented at the district and at the state level. Once again, if you have questions, reach out. We can help you walk through that process.
You know, Robert, I think one of the most overlooked things in my years of doing one-act play, even back when I was in the UIL, was the music log. Those are copyrighted intellectual materials as well, so you just got to be careful to look at all the aspects. Make sure you get the permissions ahead of time. Again, asking mercy and grace later in this world doesn't seem to be, especially when intellectual property comes up, doesn't seem to be the way to go.
No, that's true, and sometimes it is difficult, especially if you're just starting out, to know all the things you need to do. While people cringe when you hear the word bylaws, we do have them laid out for you here in terms of the specific things that you need to go through in your checklist to make sure you've done everything appropriately.
I think the National Federation of High Schools actually helps us out here. NFHS Learn, National Federation of High Schools, NFHSLearn.com actually has a course on copyright compliance and some things that go through there. So we'll shoot you an email if you've got questions. We all want to learn more about copyright, Robert, so maybe that's a way to go and go through that. I'm going to talk basically about student eligibility, the basics here. It's true for all activities and TAPs. So these are the four tenets. You have to be, you can't be 19 before September 1st. You must be a full-time day student, which means you're taking at least 4 classes at your member school. You have to actually be attending the member school, so it can't be someone from another school that comes in to assist. You can only get 4 years of high school. And the last one there is you got to be a high school student in good standing. No pass, no play does occur every now and then, so that's why you have understudies. The last couple of years, we've had some of our smaller schools or smaller casts reach out about the opportunity to use 8th grade students. At front, that's going to be a no, but you can appeal, and the board has the ability to at least listen to the appeal. Robert, is that pretty much down the road we've used in the past?
That's the process we've used. It doesn't happen often, but if you had a situation, you could reach out and ask if that would be considered.
I think during COVID was when that really came about, was because sometimes our cast opportunities in our fine arts weren't quite where we thought they might be. And then, of course, with COVID, 2 or 3 years ago, especially, well, 2 years ago, where if I think schools have relaxed things a little bit, but at that point it was, hey, if you're sick, you're not getting on the bus. So sometimes you had to make an adjustment on the fly. Rank 1 is our database, and that's where we walk through establishing eligibility. So, Rhonda, why don't you walk us through a little Rank 101?
I'd be glad to. I just want to say right off the bat, though, if you have been in Rank 1 and had any issues, Kelly Bay here at the office is the person to talk to, because she is what I call our Rank 1 guru, and if you have issues, she will help you through that. But some of the things that you really need to make sure that are done in Rank 1 is that if you are the fine art director, you need to make sure that you have you listed in Rank 1. Also in your program director, assistant program directors, make sure all your contact information is correct, your email is correct. This is where we pull to send out any communications, emails, whatever that's coming from the office. Those emails need to be correct so that we make sure you get the information you're needing. Also in Rank 1, for all of the directors, they need to be compliant, and that little box in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen says compliance, and if you're compliant or not. You must have completed your acknowledgement of rules. You must be scope certified, and if you are being fine art certified, there's a place that says Fine Arts and has a checkbox. If you just click the checkbox, nothing happens. But if you actually click on the words Fine Art, it will actually bring the presentation up for you to scroll through and read and get the information that you're needing. So make sure you do that. Also, you need to have all of your students in rank 1. Make sure each of them has completed their student profile. They've completed their acknowledgement of rules, and that they have a medical history on file. As you're going through, also make sure you've created a roster. We are going to ask for a roster periodically through the season. And first off, just make sure they're on there later when it's closer to competition time. We'll ask for you to do a little more in-depth where you put each of the cast members and their part in the play when they show up in the play as they are seen. We'll do all of that, but that's closer to the performance time. When you have questions, and Robert touched on this, if you are going to turn your script in, that's going to be through your toolkit in rank 1. The deadline is September 14th, so that's very quickly approaching. The way time is flying right now, it seems like that might be tomorrow, but September 14th is the deadline for you to turn in your script. And as Robert mentioned, if you have any questions and you need us to look over it, there is a form in your toolkit in rank 1 that you can turn that script in, and we definitely will review it for you. Brian, why don't you talk to us about communication for just a second?
Bottom line with communication is we're here to help. We'll bounce us back to the website, www.taps.biz. Up there on that big blue bar, it says Fine Arts. Click on Fine Arts, scroll down, and you'll see the words One Act Plays. Check on that for me, Will. Basically, everything we have is going to be on that landing page. We're going to have the championship information. We'll update there. Again, links to the calendar, championship information. The big thing that we're going to do there is start putting the district information once we get the dates and locations, contest managers, performance order, and results. So those will be coming shortly once we get to the point where we're there. So on the right-hand side in green up there, it says Fine Art Preseason Webinar. That's where we're going to update. Every time we send an email out to the One Act Play folks, we'll also post it here as a post. And John was talking about earlier the Twitter account. So TAPS, OAP, TAPPS, OAP, as you go through the season, as you begin your performances or your rehearsals, if you're going to tweet something out, please make sure that you get it to us and follow us along there as well. I'm going to jump in here real quick. Robert, and Rhonda, we had run real quick question. Is there a plan to increase the 10-minute restriction on music? We're not talking about any changes to the plan. The plan was published back in June. It'll stay the same. However, we will be glad to add this to the list of things that our One Act Play Committee will look at. So, Robert, Rhonda, I guess, are you in agreement that once the plan was written and approved in June really, was when the board last looked at it, we won't make any changes from this point forward?
That is correct. The board looks at things throughout the course of the school year. They look at possible changes in the summer, and what we have published at this time is what will be in place for this school year.
Rhonda, go ahead and talk to us about important dates. You want to go back to the website or hang out here on the presentation?
Well, just for a second, let's hang out on the presentation. You can see the important dates. You've got participation forms that are coming due on the 1st, transfer deadlines at September 14th is a very important date to get your scripts in to the office, and then we scoot down to November, district certification, and this is going to take place obviously after your district competitions. Your district president is the one that will be sending all the forms in, and the results from each of your divisions or your district competitions, they're the ones that are going to be sending that in there. So I'm going to have Will pop to the website, and if you'll go back to the calendar, I just want to point some things out to you. This is an important place to look. Everything is listed. If you'll go over to November, that would be great. You can see everything that's in red is a deadline. Everything that's in bright yellow is a championship, and you can see the middle of November in bright yellow. We have the different divisions. Notice that Division 2 goes first. November 9th and 10th. Division 3 is November 11th and 12th, and then on Monday the 14th and 15th is Division 1. We will we'll conduct our district our division championships on those days.
those schedules, Ron, they're going to come out once we figure out who's coming. We'll have it all divided out. That'll be published way in advance, so that will happen. Well, as we talk about, go back, Will, bounce me back to the PowerPoint here. District competition, as we look forward to the district competition opportunities, I think one of the questions that we're getting right now is who is in my district? How fast can I organize it? What all do I have to do? This is where one-act play, Robert, kind of gets in a little conflict with actually the bylaws and the Constitution about the participation form and when it's due. Can you kind of give us just a little hint? You know, I mean, you've been doing this a while. Help us understand why that conflict occurs.
Sure. So we are starting this school year 22-23 is the first year of our upcoming 2-year alignment, and we realigned last fall. We do that every 2 years and put our schools in classifications and districts. So throughout last fall and into the spring, you are assigned to a division and district based on your classification, your location around the state. That was our best guess at that time based on the intents to participate that were provided by our schools. What we do, however, every year, as Rhonda mentioned, your contracts and your intents to participate are due in our office no later than September 1st. We wait and review those and make sure that everybody who said they were going to participate is still participating. If there happened to be a necessity for any changes, we do reserve the right to make those changes last minute because we do understand things happen at your school that you're able to have or not have a program. And so I know it's a little bit disjointed in the sense of not being able to look an entire year out, but it does accommodate our member schools as best we can to have the best information together for our districts and our alignment.
I think one of the hardest things, Robert, is with one-act play and with our directors and fine art changes and school changes, some people may have the best intentions back last October that, yes, they want to participate. You have a change and now you can't, or perhaps you no longer offer the course, or all the kids you had graduated that wanted to do it, and where are we going to start? So, Will, the question was asked on our feed here, you know, are we aligned in a district? You are aligned in a district. It's a little convoluted to get there, but we'll walk you through. You go to www.taps.biz. This time you're going to click on the word athletics, and then you're going to click on the big word that says 2024 alignment information, big and red there at the top, or orange at this point when he goes over it. And then scroll all the way down to the bottom, Will, and I think one act play stands alone as the only fine art that we align. So click on one act play. Your divisions are listed there. You can click across the top. As of right now, if your name is up there, we expect to see you at a district competition sometime this fall. If you look up there and your name is not there, please drop us an email at info at taps.biz, and say, hey, I really want to participate. You'll see some of those districts are really large. That does not mean that everybody has agreed to participate. As Robert said, that's what we're waiting on the forms to come back in to say. So if we had one district that had 5 and the other district that had 9 and geography was possible, we'd definitely look at moving people to a little bit closer place. So again, you are aligned in the district as far as we know. Once we get your participation forms, we'll be following up in the next 2 weeks to make sure we get everything ready to rock and roll for you at the district level. Rhonda, go ahead and talk about the basics of the district competition, what needs to be done at the organization meeting, and lead us through that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I got choked up a second ago. But at the district competition, you'll know we just went through, like, there's 3 divisions, 4 districts. And like he said, depending on September 1st, how many people will be in your district will be determined. Once we know districts are finalized, you will have a district meeting. And if you'll see that the attachment that John told you about, which is in handouts, you can see that it goes through step by step what you need to do at your district meeting. You need to elect a district president. You will determine the place that you're going to hold your district competition, the dates, venue, times, and all of that. Each one, how much each school is going to be responsible for. All of that takes place at your district meeting. Once you do that in your district competition, you will have one judge, which you will determine. You will each have an oral critique at that time, and then the top 2 schools will advance to the state. There are, we'll pop back to the OAP page when you're going to go to the One Act page under Fine Arts. And on the top red menu once you go to One Act Play, it says forms. If you need forms for your district meeting, you can find them here. There's a rehearsal checklist, a contest manager to-do list, also your music log that we talked about earlier. You can find that form. All of those are there. Judges' critiques, if you need those to print out for your judges, everything is found right there for your district competition.
So one thing, Rhonda, that we talked about, we've got some new folks moving up and down in divisions. We've got some people moving from one district to the other. If you need help setting up your district call, a lot of folks are going to do it by Zoom. Some people will want to do it in person. Some people will actually need to go and get to their venue to make sure what it is. So one question came in. You do not provide your own judges. The judges are provided by TAPS. So Jim Rambo has been with us since the beginning. Mr. Rambo gets through the judge pool. If you want to volunteer to be a judge, make sure you send your resume in to Rhonda at taps.biz. She can make sure we get it there, but we provide the judge. That's part of the fee that you're paying us, just to cover the judging fee, etc., and then we'll go forward. So again, as you get ready, you also need to make sure you get a good contest manager. If you don't know what that word means and you're hosting the district, please again reach back out to us at info@taps.biz. All right, let's jump on into other things that are going on at the district level of competition, Rhonda.
All right, once you have completed your district competition, obviously you will have some awards to pass out. We will send those to the host school, wherever that is. We will send this box out to you, and it will have plaques for the top 3 schools, and it will have the awards for the best actress, actor, all-star cast, all-star crew, and the honorable mention cast. So we will, once we have figured out, and you have told us where you're going to hold your district competition, who's hosting, we will send that out to you. Some of you did actually respond to an email that I sent out if you were interested in being a temporary district president, so that you would be that. I only got like about 6 or 7 of you, but if you were one of those, I would say go ahead and reach out to those districts once we get them. Otherwise, I'll start talking to people and seeing if you want to be a district president. But I will reach out to you once we have those determined. Moving on to the state competition, we are once again going to be at the beautiful Callow Theater in Kerrville. That has been an outstanding place for us to go. They have been more than gracious to have us there. When you get to the state competition, we do have the 3 divisions. There will be 8 schools per division. The dates are on the calendar. The dates are also listed again here on the presentation. We will have a 3-judge panel. You'll get your oral critique, and then we are going to run the competition like we have the last year or 2, I believe. This will be our 3rd year to run it like this, and it's at the request of our venue. They have just said it really helps them. We will be doing 4 shows a day. You'll rehearse in the morning, and you'll perform in the afternoon. So the first day will just be the 4. The next day we'll have the last 4, and then we will have our awards at the end of the final day, and that has worked. So if your school wants to come and your school allows you to do that, you can come and watch the first 4. If you perform on the second day, come and watch the first 4, and the first 4 stay and see the last 4, and just support the other schools that are there. I think it's been a great learning experience for them to see other schools perform. So if you see all 8 shows, stay that last day. And again, at the competition level, the state competition, the awards, you have the top 4 schools receiving a plaque, and still the cast and crew with your actress, all-star cast, crew, and honorable mention. Once you are at the competition, you will be asked to provide all of the documentation when you come in to make sure you have your performance rights. Make sure in that you have enough scripts for each of your students. When you bought it, you should have had that, but at district you have at least 1 copy for your judge, and at state that you will have 3 copies, 1 for each judge. Make sure all of your royalties are paid. Everything that we talked about. Robert, do you want to talk to us a little bit about performance rights and licensing, what they need if they're going to be able to be live streamed at the performances?
So as you go through your checklist of things you need to obtain all the licenses and rights to perform your particular play, there's another checklist here. One of the things that comes up for years now, TAPS has live streamed all of our championships. That includes one act play. But you need to make sure you know that you have permission for your play on the day of your event to be live streamed. Some do not allow it, and if that's the case, and we need to know that, then we will not be live streaming your particular performance. But if it is allowed, make sure you've secured those rights and make sure you have proof of that so that we know in a particular division of the 8 performances we're going to be live streaming, if we can perform all or part of them based on what rights that you have secured and then what proof you have to show us that we can do that legally on your behalf.
I think the big thing when obtaining your rights is make sure you don't go short. So make sure you've got a script for your contest manager at the district and the state level if you advance that far. One thing that we have found over the years is that folks need to probably plan on advancing to state. Sometimes that turnaround time is very quick if it's only a week or two. If it took you a long time to get your original script rights and whatever, make sure that you have plenty of time in case you advance. Just don't want to leave somebody hanging. Contest managers at state and district will be looking through your payment. They'll look through your schedule. Rhonda had mentioned earlier today, what if it's an online script, et cetera? What do we do on that? So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But just keep that idea in mind that this is not, if it's whatever your cost of your script, going short could come up costing you in the long run. So be ahead of that. So another question that came out that I want to jump back to, Rhonda, just so that we're very sure about the district meeting and when that information is. It's up to the schools in the district to determine a meeting. We will assign a temporary district president, or we will call a meeting if we can't figure that out. TAPS does not host the district level. That is between the schools involved. So as we go forward, look forward to seeing another email the next day or two that'll help walk you back through that. Now that most people are in school, we can begin. However, goes back to what we talked about earlier. Schools have until September 1st to opt in or opt out. So really we're kind of hamstrung here in the office until you tell us you're going to play, whether or not we can add you into that district. So again, just make sure that you're online and on target to having your district meeting. The licenses, again, Rhonda, walk back through that. Just hit the couple of highlights that are important, especially as for live performances, the live stream, all the virtual performances, those things. I think we need to just make sure you have it. The very minimum you need is for your live performance at your school at the district center. Is that correct?
That is correct. And some of them, it has been, and it happened at state last year, and I would like for it to not happen. They didn't get the correct dates for performance. So please make sure that you have that. They had enough for they could do a live performance at their school as a practice, but when they did that, it did not leave them with enough performance allowances, but then they also didn't have the correct span of dates. So please make sure your dates are correct when you do get that, and for your performances at state. So you know what day you are. You know the 2 dates at least that you're performing, so make sure that you do get that. That was some of the things that were missing. The other thing was like Robert mentioned, was for the live stream, and so we had I think we had 3 schools at state last year, but it not on their watch, but they were not allowed to do a live performance, so we were not able to live stream them. So just make sure if that's something you want. Also, make sure if your parents want to watch your kids perform, that they know they can come watch them, especially if you cannot have a live stream. Make sure that they know that they can come and buy tickets and come watch the performance at the theater itself. So we just want them to know that they are welcome.
So again, you won't be setting your district contest dates until after you've had your district planning meeting. So you can pretty well plan on October 1 to Thanksgiving if you're looking for a wide, broad range of dates. Those would be your dates. However, coming to the Callow Theater brings us to the next big topic of concern, which is COVID. COVID is still here. We still hear reports of it, and I am a little cynical in that whatever comes after COVID, we'll have to have some protocols for it as well. However, each school has the opportunity and the desire to handle COVID, so we are pushing that down to local authority and local decision making. So it will be your job to make sure you follow your school's concerns. If the Callow comes out with any additional concerns right now, once we get to the state meeting, meet, and I know some at the district meet. Each school was assigned its own area, had to clean up and make sure we took care of the dressing areas, etc. So when you do have your district meeting, make sure you understand exactly what the COVID responsibilities and protocols are by your host facility, and be I'm going to use the word kind. Be kind to your fellow schools. Some may require a mask. Some may require distancing. Some may have to come and turn around and leave immediately. That's still out there on the minds of some folks. Robert, we've been dealing with COVID now for a while, writing the rules and the regulations. What am I missing about COVID in that scenario?
I think you're correct, Brian. It's still out there, and so you need to be careful and proceed like we have in the past. If anybody has it, or if anybody has any issues or concerns, certainly we want you to be safe. We want everybody else around you to be safe. So just keep that in mind. And as Brian mentioned, our protocols, for the most part, defer to local school control and following the protocols that your school administration has in place.
I think the biggest thing is that sometimes the fine arts, we've noticed this in the last couple of years, have got more strict regulation than perhaps some of the athletics. That's at your local level. But also understand we do get particles and particulates and speaking and all the things that go into that. One thing, too, that I would like to point out while we're here goes all the way back to rank 1, and just make sure that, yes, your fine art director needs to be in rank 1, and they have the ability to add you as the one-act play director or assistant director into your rank 1. So make sure you get that taken care of at your local level. If you haven't been receiving emails, then you probably aren't in the rank 1 system yet, but you can go to www.taps.biz, and then you can jump over to fine arts and jump over to one-act play. So as you look forward to going to the competitions, one of the things that you'll set obviously would be the ticket pricing. If there is going to be a price at all to attend at state, we will set those prices once we get with the CALO and figure out what their minimums are. And again, Rhonda, if we walk back through, do me a favor before we jump out of the resourcing. And we had a question earlier today about the lighting specs and the magic whatever. Will, if you'll do me a favor, jump over there to the TAPS website. And let's go to Fine Arts and go to One Act Play. And then we'll go to championship information, maybe that top one. It may be the red one down below. We'll walk through this together. Back up one for me, Will. Go back down to the red one that's, scroll down for me real quick. Let's just see if it's in there. Go back to the one that says championship information in the red. Somewhere in there, you're going to get the magic sheets and the tech where it says CALO Theater Tech Specs, Will, in red. So it's going to be www.taps.biz. Click on Fine Arts, click on One Act Play in the red square. The magic sheets up there, it says 2021. I guarantee you they haven't done anything different in the last year to change that. So we'll have those saying 2022 here shortly. Anything that says 19, 20, 21, understand we just probably didn't get in there and change a date on it. But your CALO Theater Tech Packet, your specs, those are the same things that you should expect from the facility that you choose for your district competition, so that everybody knows what the light board, what's the sound, and those things that come about. I think we've pretty well answered all the questions that I've seen come through, unless somebody's seen different. Folks, we're just so excited to be able to offer One Act Play. We feel like it's a valuable contributor to our fine art program and to our co-curricular programs. I'm just excited that we've got one more year to go. 2022 is going to be the best one yet. Robert, anything you have in closing that'll help our folks as we get ready for the year?
We're just glad you're here. We wish everybody a great year, and if you have questions, reach out to our office.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Just we are looking forward to an incredible competition season. And like we've said, reach out to us at the office, info at taps.biz, or call us at 254-947-9268. We are here to answer your questions, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon. And at that, I'm going to turn it back to John.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Will. And thank you, folks, for being here today. A couple of notes before we go. Don't forget to download that handout. If you click on the handout drop-down, you'll see District OAP Meeting Agenda.pdf. Go ahead and download that. If you can't figure it out, or if you run out of time, just send us an email, and I'll get it sent to you. Couple other things. We're going to be looking to photograph some of the championships this year. There's always a scheduling issue because the contest takes so long, and we've got volleyball and a few other things going on at the same time. Last year we photographed District 3. We're going to try to photograph one of the other two districts that we didn't get last year. Or one of the other districts that we didn't get last year, but we'll have to see based on scheduling. We'd also like to grab some people for interviews for TAPS Talk. We have one episode out from One Act Play last year. That's episode 8, if you want to listen to it. We tried to do some interviews last year, but everybody got cold feet and ran away from the microphone, so we'll try that again this year. Maybe we'll have better luck with a different district. We had our first ever TAPS Theater Showcase last summer at our convention in Waco, and you can see a recording of that on our YouTube page, youtube.com/tapsbiz. That's a great performance. I'd noticed earlier today when I was checking it that there's some drift in the audio and video, so I'm probably going to be re-uploading a fix to that later on. I've been buried in work getting ready for this year, so that's not... If you watch that and notice that there's a problem, we are going to fix that. I just haven't had time to do it yet. And if you have any other questions, hopefully I've rambled on enough so that you guys have had time to download that PDF. And if you need anything else, please send us an email, info@taps.biz. You folks enjoy the rest of your day.